What up guys, it's me, Mecha Otaku Gamer here, back at it again with another video. And thank you to everyone that watched my previous video that is on my personal Game of the Year for 2024, and that's just out of all the new releases that I played this year, which there's still quite a few. I never got around to picking up Metaphor or Persona 3 Reload, Unicron, and there's just so many other releases that could have potentially been Game of the Year. I even picked up Astrobot recently after choosing what my personal Game of the Year is, and that was Ys 10 Nordics. And that, just to keep in mind when watching that video, that it is all my opinion. Everybody has a different experience with these games, and I just wanted to share what my opinion on the game was. It ended up being one of my all-time favorites out of all the new releases this year. Even Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, as great as a game it is, there was a bunch that kind of held it back, and my experience with Ys 10 was amazing. Now, I want to move on from new games and talk about my favorite retro game of the year. And I played a lot of other Ys games. I played Ark of Nepishtim in Ys 7, but I'm not choosing an Ys game. I'm not going to choose Xenosaga Episode 3, even though I did play some of it. The one retro game this year that I absolutely love, it would be my personal favorite game of 2024. Well, for older games that I play, because I do play a lot of retro games. I love my PlayStation 2 here. And the one that I chose is Wild Arms 5. This game was released in August 2007 by MediaVision and published by Xseed Games, and is a celebration of the 10-year anniversary of the Wild Arms series, which I am starting to go for a full set of. These are the games that I currently have right now. And Wild Arms 5, man, there's a lot in this game that just I couldn't believe was going to make me fall in love with this game. Like, from the story to the gameplay, which is like slightly enhanced. The combat system, which I've already talked about before, so I'm not going to talk about or just reiterate everything that I have already said about this game. It looks absolutely amazing on the PlayStation 2. It plays amazing. I love the hex grid battle system, and has like a mix of a strategy with a traditional turn-based RPG. You have all the different combination arts, all the different skills that you can attach to your characters via these devices called mediums. The characters themselves are great, but I mainly want to talk about the story because that was the biggest hook of them all. And fair warning, there are going to be spoilers for the Endgame. I'm not going to spoil everything, but when I saw what the final boss and everything, my jaw just dropped. I couldn't stop gushing over how amazing this game was. The voice acting is also really good when there is voice acting. One of my biggest complaints is that there's a lot of cutscenes that aren't voiced at all, and it would have been nice for them to be voiced. But my nitpicks on this game are very minor. Like, there is some random bullshit with the combat and some enemies taking more turns than possible, and just some very minor skill-based issues on my end, but it did not dampen my love for this game. So I hope you guys can enjoy this video. I'm going to dive into the main reason why I love Wild Arms 5 out of all the other retro games that I played. Talking about the story, as that was the big reason why I chose Wild Arms 5 over all the rest. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video. After this, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And sit back, relax, and enjoy as I talk about Wild Arms 5 some more. Wild Arms 5 takes place on the planet Filgaia. Just like all the other Wild Arms games, they take place on a different iteration of the planet of Filgaia, and centers around the two main characters, Dean Stark and Rebecca here. They live in a village called Capo Branco, and one day, while they are out on a little bit of a trip, they take a trip out to Celestial Peak, where they end up stumbling upon the arm of a golem, which are these giant mechanical beings in the world of Filgaia, and Dean is absolutely in love with golems, and his dream is to become a golem hunter, just like his hero, Nightburn, which is one of the top golem hunters in the world. And inside the arm of this golem is this mysterious girl named Avril Vent Fleur, who is on a quest to discover or find out who this Johnny Appleseed person is, and hopefully recover her lost memories. So Dean, Rebecca, and Avril set out on a journey to find out who Johnny Appleseed is, while Dean is also wanting to become a golem hunter and meet his hero Nightburn. Along the way, they are teamed up with other characters such as Greg, who is a golem crusher, as he is out on a journey for revenge against a man with a golem arm who had done him and his family a lot of wrong in the past. Then you have the young girl named Carol, who's looking for the professor, someone that she was on a journey with, but then they got separated. And then you have Chuck, who, to be honest, I don't really know what his ordeal is completely, but I do know that he is also a golem hunter. He's a low-ranking golem hunter. And there's also this girl that he ends up really liking and wants to rescue her from the Varuni. The Varuni are these other humanoid beings that once lived on Filgaia, but then ended up leaving to space and then coming back, and Filgaia is actually rejecting them. So there's a lot of Varuni that are trying to terraform Filgaia in order for the Varuni to prosper and thrive. They also kind of act as like the nobles on this planet and are very looked down upon humans. And then eventually you do come in conflict with the Varuni radicals, the ones that are trying to terraform Filgaia. So Dean, Avril, Rebecca, Grade, Carol, and Chuck all team together to stop them. And along the way, they see all the different effects that what's going on with Filgaia has been plaguing both the Varuni and the humans. There are humans and Varuni that are been getting sick left and right, and it's all because of what these Varuni radicals are doing to the planet of Filgaia in order to try and keep their race alive, but eliminate the humans. And then Dean ends up wanting to not only become a golem hunter, but to be able to break that wall between the Varuni and the humans to allow them to live together in peace. And towards the end of the game, you do eventually find out who Johnny Appleseed is, and that ends up like lighting a fire into all of them in order to continue on this path to try and save the world from complete destruction. Now, this is where I'm going to get into some of the spoilers for the Endgame. I was beyond words when I saw the final boss. So, the main villain of the game, his name is Volsung. He's the leader of the Varuni radicals, and I believe it has been hinted at quite a few times that he is a hybrid of a human and a Varuni. I don't really know for sure. I don't really recall any of his backstory being touched upon. But there are others that are with him that you do end up fighting before you end up with. Oh man, I'm getting a little bit tongue-tied here. So the final confrontation with Volsung is absolutely epic. I couldn't believe it. So it starts off with like a norm where when you get to his kind of like throne room, like the final area where you're going to fight him in the game, Dean and crew are there and they are trying to devise a plan on how to take him out. And Dean comes up with this idea to use the vehicle that you get to obtain halfway through the game. So unlike the other Wild Arms games that I played through, which is just Wild Arms 4, you do get a vehicle to help traverse throughout the world of Felgaia called a mono wheel, and Dean uses this to ride into Volsung's throne room like a complete badass and use it to try and blindside him and get the upper hand in their final confrontation with him. And this just was like, this was absolutely batshit crazy. I couldn't believe what I was seeing when I saw this. It was crazy, but it was amazing and badass. And Dean using his arms. So arms are basically the weapons that the characters use. Dean has these awesome looking twin revolver pistols called the Twin Fenrir that he uses in. He can use them as both melee weapons and long-range projectile weapons, but mainly for melee, as the magazines that are in the handles kind of extend out. He can use them kind of like blades or just melee weapons. But there's just this epic confrontation right before you get into the true battle against Volsung, which you do fight him on multiple occasions in this game. He is the main final boss with multiple phases. So after you beat him, he ends up taking over this golem called Jotunheim, and it leads into something I couldn't absolutely believe was going to be in this game. The second phase of the final boss is a freaking mech battle. So there's this other golem that is utilized by I don't really know where it came from, but you have this other golem named Asgard that Dean and his friends are able to control, and you use Asgard to try and fight against Jotunheim, but Asgard is not at full power. He is missing the arm that Avril was seen in at the very beginning of the game. So in this fight, you aren't actually able to do much against Jotunheim. You do end up having to just take damage and lose this fight. So I'm kind of happy, because in Wild Arms 4, the second phase of the final boss was such a pain in the ass. I couldn't believe my luck when I was able to finally beat it after like 50 game overs. And then finally moving on to the third and final phase of that fight. So it is nice to know that I don't have to deal with that kind of random bullshit in this game. Well, at least for the final boss. There were some other boss fights that previous to this that were just a complete pain in the ass. Some of them where I had a sound strategy, but the boss just decided to cheese its way to giving me a quick game over. But back to the giant mech battle. I'm a huge fan of mecha and having mechs and RPGs, so this just completely blew my mind, seeing a fight between two golems, which are essentially mechas, in the Wild Arms 5 world. This just is complete fan service on my for me. I loved it. And then you get this cutscene where Asgard is able to fully power up. He gets his arm back and he unleashes his arms, which are his weapons, which are like giant versions of Dean's twin Fenrir, and he just completely wipes the floor with Jotunheim. And then eventually you do wind up in a final confrontation with Volsung, as he is now mutated by the darkness, or what the evil inside of the TF system, and becomes this monster named Legio Volsung. And after you fight him, you beat the game. And then the ending, which I'm not really going to spoil that part. I've already spoiled enough of the story. The story is just absolutely amazing. It's not as cliched as Wild Arms 4 was. There was a lot of cheesy anime bullshit in Wild Arms 4. There's still some cheesy anime bullshit in this game, but not as much as there was in Wild Arms 4. And for that, I praise the story writers for this game. I praise everyone over at Media Vision, and even the English localization team over at Etsy. They did a fantastic job with this game. I loved every single bit of it. I even really enjoyed the soundtrack, and I can't wait to get my hands on a physical CD soundtrack for this game. Now, out in Japan, this was called Wild Arms, the 5th Vanguard, and 5th was spelled with a V, because V is the Roman numeral for 5. And that, I love that this game was my favorite retro game of 2024. It's a fantastic game. I hope someday that these Wild Arms games can be remastered and ported onto modern consoles. I would love to see these games be more widely available. And that is pretty much all that I'm going to say about Wild Arms 5. Now, you can check out some of my older videos where I mentioned about this game. I have one where I was talking about some PS2 games that have aged well. I think I even still have a video on my initial impressions on this game up on my channel. So with that, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I wanted to really just talk more about the story of Wild Arms 5. It is by far the best part of this game. So with that, I am Mecha Otaku Gamer. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.